The drought in Burkina Faso had entered its third year. Villagers were flocking to cities. Water protests were turning into political crises. Ibrahim Traore's government was teetering. French and American intelligence were preparing an operation codenamed Water Coup to overthrow Traore. But no one knew about the Blue Belt project that Traore was developing with a team of engineers trained in China. Thousands of people had gathered in Ouagadougou's main square with empty water containers chanting, "We want water!" For 3 years there had been no proper rainfall. Burkina Faso's lakes had dried up, its rivers reduced to thin streams. From the presidential palace window, Ibrahim Traore watched this demonstration, his face expressionless, but his mind in turmoil. Defense Minister Ouedraogo stood beside him, presenting the latest reports. "Mr. President, the situation is getting worse every day. 5 cities in the northern regions have been completely abandoned. People are either coming to the capital or massing at the Mali border." "How is the situation in Mali?" asked Traore. "They're better off thanks to the Niger River, but they've closed their borders too. They're not taking any refugees." Traore nodded. "The French?" Ouedraogo took a deep breath. "Aqua Global has increased water prices again. A liter of clean water is now more expensive than a liter of gasoline, and they're only selling for foreign currency." "They're not actually selling water," said Traore, his voice trembling with controlled anger. "They're buying our sovereignty. With every drop of water, they want us to submit a little more." Communication Minister Ouedraogo entered. "Mr. President, we're under siege by the international press. CNN, BBC, France 24. They're all broadcasting about government failure and the approaching humanitarian crisis. The opposition's statements are also going through foreign channels," added Intelligence Chief Sankara. Former Foreign Minister Kabore held a press conference in France. He called for international support to overthrow the government. Traore studied the map on his desk. Once blue rivers and lakes were now brown. "They expect us to leave our people without water, then take out loans to buy this water from them," said Traore. "First Sudan, then Egypt, Libya, now us. This is not a coincidence, it's a strategy." Just then, his assistant announced, "Mr. President, Dr. Zita is here. He wants to meet with you urgently. He mentioned Blue Belt." Everyone in the room looked at each other in surprise. Blue Belt was one of Traore's most secret projects. Only a small circle knew of its existence. "Let him in," said Traore. Adama Zita, a determined-looking engineer in his 30s, entered with a leather bag. "Mr. President, when I presented this project to you 2 years ago, you thought it was impossible. But now, our first test results have come in." On his tablet was a 3D model showing what lay beneath the Sahara. Right here underground at a depth of about 400 meters. As you can see, there's an ancient water basin. According to our geological estimates, this basin dates back to the last ice age and contains approximately 500 billion cubic meters of water. Traore picked up the tablet, his eyes widening in disbelief. If this is true, this amount of water could meet Burkina Faso's water needs for 100 years, Zita completed. Not just Burkina Faso's, but all of West Africa's. That night, in a signal-proof room deep beneath the palace, Traore gathered his closest advisors, Dr. Zita, Intelligence Chief Sankara, Defense Minister Ouedraogo, and Economy Minister Diallo. All the reports and maps brought by Zita were spread out on the table. "Theoretically, it's possible to extract this water reservoir," Zita was saying, showing a geological cross-section. "I consulted on a similar project in China. The basin there was closer to the surface, but the technology is the same." "What would the cost be?" asked Diallo, ever practical. "About $2 billion for the first phase. The total project could cost $5 to $6 billion. Diallo shook his head. "We don't have that kind of money in our budget. The IMF and World Bank are already pressuring us. They're not giving new loans." "The Chinese," Ouedraogo suggested. Sankara intervened. "The Chinese government knows that if they finance such a project, they'll be confronting the French. Especially right now, in the midst of trade wars, they won't want to take that risk." Traore looked at the map on the table. The water basin extended beneath the north of Burkina Faso, just below the Sahara Desert. Part of it also extended into Mali territory. "We can't extract this basin alone," said Traore. "Not just financially, but politically it's impossible. Western powers will do everything to prevent it." "Why would they try to prevent it?" asked Zita somewhat naively. This is just water, a basic need for people's survival. Traore smiled bitterly. My young friend, if Africa controls its own water resources, the West's greatest weapon is taken away. Water is the new oil. Water scarcity is the greatest control of the New World Order. Then what will we do, Mr. President? Asked Sankara. The people are getting angrier every day. French agents are fueling this anger. A coup attempt is just a matter of time. After careful thought, Traore declared, we will start the Blue Belt Project, but not alone, together with other countries in the region. With Mali? Asked Ouedraogo in surprise. Our relations with them are at their lowest level. No, said Traore. We'll form a new alliance. Niger, Chad, Mali, Senegal, they all face the same problem. They're all in the grip of water scarcity, and they all want to break free from Western control. The room fell silent. What Traore was proposing was not just an engineering project, but a regional revolution. We'll proceed in stages, Traore continued. First, technical teams collaborate, then financial planning. Finally, we bring the leaders together. Meanwhile, we implement short-term solutions and give our people hope. The meeting continued through the night, laying groundwork for the Blue Belt Project. In Paris, Africa Desk Chief Philippe Dubois examined intelligence from Burkina Faso. His assistant reported, Director, we received an interesting signal from Burkina Faso last night. A long meeting was held in the room beneath the presidential palace. Because a signal blocker was used, we couldn't get the content, but we identified who attended. The assistant handed over a tablet. Scanning the list, Dubois paused at Dr. aga1st, geologist and water engineer, the assistant explained. Studied in Shanghai for 5 years, worked on the Chinese government's Gobi Desert water projects. Dubois' eyes widened with concern. The Nubian Aquifer project in the Sahara. Is Traore trying to reach that underground water basin? Possible, sir. Recent geological research shows that the basin extends into Burkina Faso territory. Dubois immediately picked up his phone. Connect me with the foreign minister. Urgent. Within an hour, high-level officials had gathered at the French Foreign Ministry. At the table were the foreign minister, DGSE director, Aqua Global CEO, and the Africa Affairs advisor. If Traore starts this project, not only our control in Burkina Faso, but in all of West Africa will be endangered, Dubois was saying. Aqua Global's water sales in the region will collapse. Our new uranium agreements in Mali and Niger will be jeopardized. We should accelerate the water coup operation, said the DGSE director. We were waiting for all the opposition to come together to overthrow Traore, but we can't wait anymore. The foreign minister was cautious. An open intervention will lead to international reactions. Especially China and Russia will portray this as a new colonial intervention in Africa. It won't be a direct intervention, said Dubois. We'll support former Defense Minister Kabore. We'll encourage a popular uprising. We'll deepen the water crisis. Aqua Global CEO Pierre Renaud spoke up. Our company can reduce water supply for a while, citing technical problems. This will help deepen the crisis. Exactly, said Dubois. And remember, the Blue Belt Project is not just an economic threat, but a strategic one. If Traore starts this project and succeeds, other African countries will also take action for similar projects. What about the Chinese? Asked the foreign minister. Are they supporting this project? No direct support yet, said the DGSE director. But Zeta's connections to China are strong. If the project progresses, China could provide technical and financial support. Then our priority is Zeta, said Dubois. We either have to buy him or neutralize him. The meeting ended with the decision to accelerate the water coup operation. French intelligence activated its agents in Burkina Faso. 2 weeks later, at a secret military base 300 kilometers from Ouagadougou, Traore and Dr. Zeta were explaining the Blue Belt Project to water engineers and geologists from 5 different countries. Traore stood in front of a large map showing the water basin beneath the Sahara. This basin doesn't belong to just one country. It crosses our borders just like rivers. Therefore, the solution must also cross borders. A water engineer from Mali spoke up. Mr. President, the financial dimension of this project concerns us. Our countries are already struggling with major economic problems. You're right, said Traore. But consider that as West African countries, we're spending about $10 billion annually on water imports. This money goes directly to Western companies. The Blue Belt Project could pay for itself in 5 years. They discussed implementation in stages. country-specific research, then joint technical teams, followed by alternative financing sources, possibly from BRICS nations or the African Development Bank. At the end of the day, Traore addressed all participants. Today we're taking a historic step here, a step that will change Africa's destiny. Water is life, and we're taking back our life. Just then, Intelligence Chief Sankara quickly entered the meeting room. There was a worried expression on his face. "Mr. President, there's an emergency. Large-scale protests have started in the capital. Violence is being reported. And there was an attack on Dr. Zita's home." Zita's face paled. "My family, ... They're safe," said Sankara. "Our guards intervened in time, but they set the house on fire." Traore immediately recognized the pattern. Classic destabilization tactics. End the meeting. Everyone return to your countries through secure routes. Dr. Zita, you'll go to our secret base at the Mali border. You're too valuable to risk. As they boarded a helicopter back to the capital, flames were visible below. Government buildings burned while crowds clashed in the streets. In the palace command center, Defense Minister Ouedraogo reported, 2 brigade commanders have defected. Troops from the northern garrison are moving toward the city. The western garrison is still loyal to us. Presidential guards? Asked Traore. 100% with you, Mr. President. The palace's security is solid. Traore studied the tactical map, then made a bold decision. I must address the nation. Prepare a live broadcast. Mr. President, this could be very risky, warned Sankara. You'll reveal your location. We have to take risks, said Traore. The people need to know the truth. They need to understand who's behind the coup plotters. An hour later, Traore appeared on national television in full uniform. My dear citizens, today our country is going through a critical test. A group supported by foreign powers is trying to overthrow your legitimate government. Their aim is to take control of our most valuable resource, water. I want to reveal a truth to you. We have discovered a massive water basin beneath the Sahara Desert. This basin could save not only Burkina Faso, but the entire region from water scarcity. This is why we are under attack. This is why we are facing a coup. Traore showed the map on the table. Our Blue Belt project aims to reach this water basin. In cooperation with neighboring countries, it's a project that will free West Africa from water dependency. But some powers, especially companies like Aqua Global and the government supporting them, are trying to prevent this project. As Traore's speech was being broadcast across the country, troops under General Bamoro's command were advancing toward the presidential palace. However, Traore's speech had a powerful effect on the people. On social media, the hashtag #Bluebelt was spreading rapidly. There are also agents of foreign powers within our army, Traore continued. But the majority of our army consists of patriotic soldiers. I call on them. Don't point your weapons at your own people. Don't join the coup plotters. Let's stand together for the future of Burkina Faso, for the Blue Belt project. As troops approached the palace, Traore called on soldiers to refuse illegal orders and asked citizens to peacefully resist the coup. His words had immediate impact. Some advancing soldiers lowered their weapons, refusing to proceed. Outside the palace, thousands of citizens had begun to gather around the palace. They were holding banners that read, "Unity for Blue Belt, and our water is ours." This is why they want to overthrow us, said Traore. Because they fear the power of the people. By dawn, the coup had collapsed. General Bamoro and Colonel Diop were arrested. Troops under the coup plotters' control either surrendered or dispersed. 3 months later, a grand ceremony was held on the edge of the Sahara Desert in northern Burkina Faso. The first drilling work of the Blue Belt project was beginning. Leaders and technical teams from regional countries attended the ceremony. A large platform had been set up, decorated with the flags of Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, Chad, and Senegal. As Traore spoke on the platform, there was determination in his eyes. Today, we're not just starting a drilling operation. We're opening a new page in Africa's journey to independence. Water is life, and now the control of our life is in our own hands. The president of Mali also gave a speech. For years, our resources have been exploited by Western powers. Our oil, our gold, our diamonds, and now water, our most basic need. But now we say enough. Blue Belt is not just an engineering project. It is a manifesto of freedom. Dr. Zita explained the technical details. The first drilling would go down to a depth of 400 meters. After reaching the water basin, special pumps and pipelines would be built. The project was planned to be completed in 5 years. Traore symbolically started the first drilling machine. A great applause erupted. There was hope on people's faces. After the ceremony, Traore and Dr. Zita were inspecting the drilling site. Looking at the horizon, Traore asked, "What do you think, Zita? Will we succeed?" Zita smiled. "Mr. President, this project is technically possible, and it has the support of the people. Most importantly, we are no longer alone. The entire region is with us. The West's reaction will be harsh," said Traore, "especially when the water starts flowing." "We must be prepared," said Zita, "not just technically, but politically as well." Traore nodded. Africa's struggle for independence has never been easy. But this time, it's different. Because now we have knowledge, we have technology, and most importantly, we have unity. 6 months after the start of the Blue Belt project, the first drilling was successful. At a depth of 412 meters, the ancient water basin was reached. The first water samples showed exciting results. The water was of drinkable quality and didn't require any treatment. Dr. Zita was examining water analyses in the laboratory. "This water is about 10,000 years old," he said excitedly. "From the last ice age. The minerals in it are in exactly the balance we need." The first pumps were installed and water began to flow to the surface. Initially, only small amounts of water were being pumped as the system was being tested. But even this was enough to provide water to small settlements in the area. The project received wide coverage in the international press. Channels like National Geographic, BBC, Al Jazeera described Blue Belt as Africa's water revolution. The initial successes also made financing the project easier. The African Development Bank announced a credit package of $3 billion. The BRICS New Development Bank provided $1 billion for technical equipment. Even some European countries began to give indirect support to the project. However, France and companies like Aqua Global were waging a silent war. Deliveries of critical equipment were delayed. Pressure was put on international banks. Internal turmoil in Mali was fueled. In Burkina Faso, water scarcity began to gradually decrease. The first pipelines reached the capital, Ouagadougou. The city's water reservoirs began to fill. For the first time in years, people didn't have to wait in water queues. Traore, together with Dr. Zita, visited the new water distribution center in the capital. People were filling their containers from tankers that brought clean water. There was a relieved expression on their faces. "This is why we fight," said Traore, "for that expression on these people's faces." 2 years after the start of the Blue Belt project, the power balances in West Africa had completely changed. Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, Chad, and Senegal had formed a regional union under the name Sahara Water Alliance. The alliance was not limited to water management. Partnerships were also developed in areas such as economic cooperation, security agreements, and technology transfer. At an international water conference, Traore was the keynote speaker. "We are coming to the end of the age of water wars," he said. "Water should cease to be a weapon, a means of control, and become the common heritage of humanity." The Blue Belt project has shown that this is possible. In a video conference with alliance leaders, Traore outlined Phase 2 plans. When the second phase is completed, our water production will reach 10 million cubic meters per day. This is enough to meet the basic water needs of all people in our region. "And the third phase?" asked the president of Mali. "In the third phase, we will expand agricultural irrigation systems," said Traore. "We will open lands at the edge of the desert for agriculture. We can triple our food production." The president of Niger said, "I'm concerned about the West's new moves, especially the recent coup attempt in Nigeria could be connected to our project." "Of course," said Traore. "If Nigeria, the largest economy in West Africa, joins Blue Belt, the balance of power in the region will completely change. They will try to prevent this." The conference ended with a joint declaration. The alliance invited all countries in the region to join the Blue Belt project. The project was presented not just as a means of providing water, but as a platform for economic development and independence. In the 5th year of the project, Blue Belt was operating at full capacity. Water extracted from the basin beneath the Sahara was now being distributed to all 5 countries. Water scarcity had been largely solved in the region. Traore visited the main pumping station in the north for the 5th anniversary celebrations of the project. Here, giant pumps were bringing millions of cubic meters of water to the surface every day. Dr. Zita was explaining the latest technical developments. The filters we've developed with new nanotechnology have reduced energy consumption by 30%. Also, our solar energy systems are providing 80% of the entire operation. Traore stood in the control room of the station. On large screens, the entire system could be monitored live. Each pump, each pipeline, each distribution point. 5 years ago, there was only desert here, said Traore. Now, there's one of Africa's greatest engineering marvels. Outside, a small city had formed around the pumping station. Engineers, technicians, workers, and their families were living here. Schools, hospitals, markets had been established. In the middle of the desert, like an oasis, a new center of life had emerged. At the end of the visit, Traore held a press conference. The international media was following the 5th year of Blue Belt with great interest. The Blue Belt project has shown that Africa can control its own resources, said Traore. This is not just about water, oil, gold, diamonds, cobalt. It's a model for all our natural resources. A journalist asked, "What about relations with Western powers? How are your relations with France and other former colonial countries?" "We've turned a new page," said Traore. "Now we're talking as equal partners. The colonial days are behind us. Many Western companies, including Aqua Global, now want to work with us on fair terms." After the press conference, Traore and Dr. Zita climbed to the top of the pumping station. Before them stretched the vast Sahara Desert. But now this desert was not an obstacle, but like a friend hiding treasure beneath. 5 years ago, when we started the first drilling, were you sure we would succeed? Asked Traore. Zita smiled. Technically, I was sure, but politically, to be honest, I didn't think we could go this far. Neither did I, said Traore. But now I understand that the greatest obstacle before a country or a people is the disbelief in their own limits. The two watched the sun setting on the horizon of the Sahara. Below them, the pumps worked tirelessly, carrying water to the heart of Africa. The Blue Belt project did not remain just an engineering success. It became a symbol for Africa's control of its own resources. The project not only solved water scarcity, but also paved the way for regional cooperation, technological independence, and economic development. Ibrahim Traore went down in history as a leader who won the struggle for independence in water. But for him, this was just the beginning. There was a longer road to Africa's true independence, and on this road, they were no longer alone.